Okay, good morning, everybody. This is the Committee on Agriculture. My name is Mark Hashem. I'm the chair, and next to me is Representative Martin. And that's about it in this room. Everybody else is coming in via Zoom. Today it's Friday, February 4th, 2022, 10 a.m. And we are at the Capitol in room 325. First up on our agenda is House Bill, before I go into that, can't do this the last one. Okay, first up on our agenda is HB 2466 relating to Taro. First testifier we have is Department of Agriculture in support. Okay. Next, we have Department of Budget and Finance with comments. Next, we have Department of Taxation with comments. Are they on? Nope.
Good morning, Marky on behalf of Isaac Choi and the Department of Taxation. The department will stand on the written testimony offering comments. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up. What's that? Oh, next up we have Hawaii State Ahamoku in support. Nope. Next we have Hawaii Farm Bureau in support.
Morning, Chair Hatcham, Vice Chair Caruso, members of the Agriculture Committee, Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We'll stand on a written testimony in support.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Hi, good morning, committee. My name is Jade. I'm a member for the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We've offered comments on the measure, and you may contact us if you have.
Can you hear? I'm sorry, could you repeat that? We can't hear you in the conference room.
Oh, yes. My name is Jade McMillan. I am representing the Tax Foundation of Hawaii on behalf of Tom Yamachika. We have offered written comments on the measure, and feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have about a dozen individuals that submitted testimony in support, and also a couple, 3 companies that also submitted testimony in support. That's all the Zoom testifiers that we have. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none? Nope. Is there any members wishing to ask questions? Seeing none, we're moving on. Next up is HB 1768 relating to the disposition of water rights. First up, we have Hawaii State Ahamoku in support. Next, we have DLNR with comments. Is anybody?
Good morning, Chair. Yeah. Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Ian Hirokawa with DLNR Land Division. We'll stand on our testimony supporting the intent of the bill and offering our comments and be available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is that anybody else from DLNR wishing to testify?
Oh, we Bob Masuda, First Deputy, supporting our testimony. Thank you. We stand by for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Department of Planning, Hawaii County in support. Next, we have Council District 8, North Kona, Hawaii County Council in support.
Aloha Kakahiaka Chair and Vice Chair, members of the committee. Holeka Inaba here, representing North Kona on the Hawaii County Council, and want to lend our support for this measure, whether it be in Waioli, Hanalei, all the way to Waipio. Our Kanaka farmers should have access to practice their customary and traditional rights without the difficulties of having to secure these water rights and these water leases. So we ask that you support this measure and support our farmers as they do the good work here in our communities. Mahalo nui, aloha.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Waioli Valley Taro Hui in support.
Aloha, Chair Hashem and Vice Chair Pruso and honorable committee members. I'm Kapua Sproat and I'm testifying today on behalf of the Waioli Valley Taro Hui. I'm a professor at the University of Hawaii at Manoa's William S. Richardson School of Law and the director of Kahuliao Native Hawaiian Law Center. I co-teach our Native Hawaiian Rights and Environmental Law Clinics, which are classes that are offered for upper division law students where they get experience practicing law, and we provide free legal services to communities with the greatest needs. Since 2019, we have been working with the Waioli Valley Taro Hui on Kauai, and their situation is detailed in the Hui's written testimony, as well as the testimonies of 11 individual farmers upon which we stand. The bottom line is that the Hui is a collective of about a dozen small family farmers, many of whom are Native Hawaiian with long-standing ties to Waioli. Most are third to fifth generation kalo farmers. Some were born on the land that they now tend. Their lifeways were devastated by the 2018 floods that ravaged Kauai's North Shore and the challenges of our new climate reality. In 2019, disaster recovery efforts revealed that the farmers' Native Hawaiian irrigation system that has taken water from Waioli Stream for centuries was on conservation land and would now be subject to permitting and other requirements, including HRS 171, DLNR's water licensing provision. Over the last 3 years, the farmers, with the assistance of our clinics, have been working diligently to comply with 171's many complex requirements, including a right of entry, an easement, an IIFS amendment, an FEA, FONSI, and more. In fact, over those many years, 33 students and 4 attorneys have spent more than 2,000 hours supporting the farmers trying to get a water lease under 171. Our students playfully refer to the Hui as a legal unicorn because their situation and legal status are unique and warrant special treatment. The use and stewardship of this area is ancient. Research has documented these lo'ikalo to the 15th century, and the very same awai and lo'ikalo that these farmers steward. I have pictures of those from 150 years ago. So the system has been in place before Hawaii was a state, before there was a conservation district, before laws like 171 existed. Their water use is also pono. It's in stream, it's in watershed, it's non-polluting, and these are public trust purposes. So the farmers have a pertinent riparian and traditional and customary Native Hawaiian rights. Despite the justice issues here, these humble farmers have dutifully sought to comply with the full letter of the law. And I'm just here today to ask you to please pass out this bill. We have worked closely with Ian Hirakawa and others at DLNR, and they recognize how incredibly difficult this process has been and the need for amendments. Last year, a concurrent reso passed, and we thought that would be it, but it's not. And I also want to clarify that the farmers didn't ask for this bill, though they welcome it. And so I want to mahalo Representatives Tarnas, Martin, and Matayoshi for introducing the measure. And I'm happy to delve into any details or answer any questions that you may have. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have individual by Sierra Lynn Stone in support.
Okay, aloha chairs and committee members. Mahalo for your time today. My name is Sierra Lynn Stone, and my family has been farming kalo in the Waioli district for generations. I strongly support HB 1768. For me, kalo farming has been a passion and my life's purpose. I continue to take on that legacy after my late grandfather, who I've learned as a young girl, growing up, all about kalo farming and working in the discipline within that area. And I now, have that dream to continue the legacy and soon to be a 7th generation. And so I just ask humbly that you go in support of this bill. Due to that 2018 flooding that we did have, a lot of us farmers did experience some devastation and just tragedy amongst our farms and our traditional awai and water system. And it's definitely taken some time, but the resilience that we've all been doing and working together alongside Kapua and the team has been tremendous help. And I'm just super grateful for their help. And, with the committee's help, we have a chance to ensure enough of the water for our farms and the longevity of all that we intend to do as local kalo farmers. And so thank you for your opportunity to be here and to testify. And I just ask that you please approve this vote. It would make a huge difference to all of us kalo farmers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Joanne Kaona in support.
Aloha, representatives. My name is Joanne Kaona, and this is my dad, Clarence Shorty Kaona. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify, and I'm here to humbly ask that you support HB 1768. I help my dad farm kalo in Waiole Valley. He's 86 and he still goes to Lo'i every single day. I'm the secretary of the Waiole Valley Taro Hui, and I also work at the Waipaw Foundation, where I get to grow food and teach kids about aloha aina, sustainability, natural resource management, and traditional and customary Native Hawaiian practices. At Waipaw, we make poi every Thursday with volunteers, which gets distributed across the island. And a majority of that kalo used to make the poi is grown by small family farmers within Waiole, including my dad and I. For us, farming kalo defines our ohana. It's who we are, how we contribute to our community. And being a fourth generation farmer, it would be impossible for me to turn away from a practice that has been part of my family for so long. But honestly, the last 4 years have been rough for us. After the damages of the 2018 flood, and then trying to navigate the complex legal process of 171, learning about revocable permits, water leases, IIFSs, EAs, DEAs, FONSIs, all these acronyms that I never knew existed. It's a bit overwhelming to come to the realization that a modern day Taro farmer also has to be a part-time lawyer. But our Hui started this process of getting a water lease in good faith and have done all the necessary compliance work, which we couldn't have accomplished without the hours and hours of work from Kapua, Ui, and every single clinician that provided that for us. And we've really had so much support along the way from representatives, Mayor, BLNR, Ian, DLNR, DHHL, OHA, but still, despite all this support, after 4 years, we still don't have a water lease. So that's why this bill is important and would help farmers like us tremendously. We just want to farm and we need the water to do this. So please support HB 1768. An exemption from 171 would bring our Hui one step closer to upholding our mission of feeding our communities and perpetuating this cultural practice for generations to come. Mahalo again for this chance to testify. And my dad is also here and he would like to do an oral testimony and he doesn't have Zoom. So he's here when you're ready.
Hello.
Clarence?
Ready?
Is that
Ready.
Clarence?
Hello, my name is Clarence Eli Kauna. And I've been farming when I was 6 years old with my dad. I've been farming ever since from grammar school to high school. Then I left to go to the mainland and came back, still farming. Getting up in the morning, pulling taro, planting taro, plowing the field, clean the patch, and doing whatever it is to make the taro come big. I appreciate whatever that is needed to continue to grow big taro and grow farming. I support this bill and I hope you do. Mahalo and thank you.
Thank you, Clarence. Good job. Next up, we have Uilani Lum in support.
Aloha mai kako, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is Ui Tanigawa Lum, and I'm an attorney and fellow at Kahuliau Center for Excellence in Native Hawaiian Law, where I help to teach the Native Hawaiian and environmental law clinics. Mahalo nui for this opportunity to testify in strong support of this measure. And I just say, as my testimony reflects, that this measure takes steps to bring the Black letter law to life on the ground and in our communities. It would provide much needed justice for these kalo farmers like those in Waioli Valley, Taro Hui. I first met the Hui as a third-year law student taking the environmental law clinic with Professor Kapua Sproat in 2019. And since then, my career as a young attorney has been shaped and inspired by their hard work, their aloha, and unfortunately navigating this 7158 process. While I'm grateful to know these incredible folks, they shouldn't need a lawyer to be a farmer and to grow big kalo. I have seen firsthand, and the Hui's 2021 final EA confirmed that in-stream use of water for traditional and customary kalo cultivation, like the Hui's, offers significant environmental benefits. The analysis supports this idea that kalo farmers like those in the Hui actually improve the environment and provide crucial stewardship of Aina and its resources. Lo'i kalo not only provide important habitat for native flora and fauna, they also have beneficial effects on air and water quality, contributes to groundwater recharge, and mitigates flood risks. But the kalo farmers themselves, like the Hui, also offer comprehensive, long-term, and strategic stewardship of biocultural watershed resources and the maintenance of the stream itself. These farmers have an intimate relationship and knowledge of the specific place that was built throughout generations. And though these benefits have long sustained Kanaka Maoli and these islands, recent scholarly articles confirm these vast benefits, and that is reflected in the Hui's final EA as well. And as Chair Case said best, what we're trying to do here is fit an old system into a new legal system. And this measure would effectuate important protections for our practice and our culture in this modern legal system. So with that, I just want to thank you, mahalo you for your service for our collective Hawaii, and I respectfully ask you to vote today to pass this bill. Mahalo nui.
Okay, thank you very much. That is all the people we have registered to testify. We have about 3 dozen more people and organizations that submitted testimony in support. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none. Members, are there anybody wishing to ask questions?
I have a question, Chair.
Sure. Representative Tokioka, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Hashem. My question is for Bob and DLNR. Are you still on, Bob?
Yes.
Thank you. I read your testimony. Interesting. I read all 4 of your testimonies. Okay, so in your testimony, you talk about the language of the bill may be too narrow to achieve what the farmers would benefit from. Can you explain, or can somebody, your testimony is all the same. So can either you, Ian, or
I'll have Ian explain that part.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes,
Go ahead, Ian.
Thank you. Yes, Representative. So the way the bill is drafted, it says, use of water for traditional and customary kalo cultivation practices. And, just that there's legal precedent regarding the definition of traditional and customary practices to exclude commercial uses. And, we don't want there to be that ambiguity. I think our position is that if you're doing kalo cultivation in, in a manner that is responsible and, in a traditional way, it shouldn't matter that you're selling a portion of, or selling what you produce. It should apply equally to those who are doing it for subsistence needs, or if that's their living, because ultimately it's about preserving the practice, right, and strengthening it. So I think our position is that it should apply to both subsistence farmers and also those who possibly either make a living doing it or sell a portion. They shouldn't be excluded from the exemption.
Okay, so I didn't notice you folks making any potential amendments. And I'm sure after the bill was introduced and the testimony came in, Ian, you saw what all of these local farmers are trying to achieve. And I think you've been working with them long enough to understand what they're trying to achieve. So is there language that you could recommend that would fix what you're saying would be too narrow and beneficial to them and others?
I think we have another admin bill that seeks to sort of modify the leasing process in a more comprehensive manner, but I believe the language we used was use of water for kalo cultivation done in a traditional manner. So it was a little bit more broad than how it's written here.
Okay, but then that kind of contradicts what you're saying, that it may be too narrow, but then the one that you're talking about sounds like it's kind of broad.
It is broader. I'm sorry. Yeah. So what I'm saying is I think the language in this measure might be a little too narrow. So if you say use of water for kalo cultivation done in a traditional manner, it could include both subsistence and commercial growers, that are doing it in a specific way, right? That's kind of what we want to preserve.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think what we're trying to do is strongly support what Kapua and Ian and those folks have been working on for a number of years, and recognize that in order to have the food production capacity grow for kalo, and both for cultural and food nutritional point of view, that the farmers need to be able to sustain as well as sell some, and keeping it broad in that sense.
Okay.
And we appreciate the committee's support of this. Thank you very much.
Okay. Chair, I have a question for, one more question, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Kapua, are you still on the line?
I am Rep. Tokioka.
Aloha.
Aloha.
And for those of you who have never been out to Waipaha Foundation and Kapua's operation, you must see it. It's unbelievable. And for those of you who have been there, you all know. So having heard the testimony and listening to the questions, is there any input that you would give to achieve what you guys are trying to achieve, and understanding the department's position be along the same line and path, so that none of it is not clear about what the bill is trying to do, and so that if DLNR has to go out and check on what's happening and who qualifies and who doesn't.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts from that after reading all the testimony? And I know you've been working on this probably longer than most, so.
Mahalo for that question, Rep. Tokioka, and for your support and interest. I think this is a really important issue. We're grateful for the time and for the support of Ian and Uncle Bob and everyone else. I personally am not as concerned as Ian with the language, but I do think that, but I appreciate the endeavor to expand it and make clear that anyone that's also using it for commercial purposes would be included. I think it would be sufficient to include that in the committee report. And to the degree that they would like to expand this, I'm happy to work on language, because I think we're all working towards the same goal. We all want to make sure Uncle Shorty can grow the biggest kalo he can, and that Sierra and Joe and everyone else can continue to maintain this important tradition. So I'm not as concerned about the department as a department about the language, but I'm happy. I think, again, if it's included in the committee report, and if they would like to, if you folks would like to make amendments, I'm happy to work with you on specific language for that.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks for all you do, Kapua.
Mahalo, thank you for your support.
Thank you, Chair Hashem.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else with any questions? Seeing none, we are moving on. First up, we have HB 1992. Next up, Department of Agriculture with comments.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Phyllis Shimobukuro Geyser, Chairperson, Hawaiian Department of Agriculture. We stand on our written testimony. We're offering comments more than the concerns. Thank you.
Next up, we have Department of Health with comments.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Glenn Hagai with Department of Health, Solid and Hazardous Waste Branch. The department stands on its written testimony offering comments, and we're available for any committee questions.
Okay, that is all the testimony. Oh, wait, never mind. We have, next up, we have individual by the name of Nathaniel Hogston.
Hello. Do I say the testimony now, or do I just say it?
Yes.
Okay.
Just summarize your testimony in your own words.
Okay. My name is Daniel Hodgson. I'm a recent chemistry graduate from UH, and in my free time, I'm actually trying to start a composting company. To keep it short, basically food waste in developed nations, 40% of food is wasted. It's one of the richest sources of compost material. Big compost facilities on Oahu actually say they take food waste, but most food waste, through discussions with residences who I'm picking up from and businesses, throw it away in municipal waste bins, which end up in landfills ultimately. So that just means most of the richest material is going into landfills. And the laws on this kind of stuff is really vague. So it's kind of hard for people like me, and I have people working with me to like really go for it. I'll also say that the compost produced by the big compost facilities is actually lacking in quality. I do landscaping and I have a lot of landscaping friends, and we've seen the compost they produce have rocks, nails, plastics. There's a newspaper online that has what's it called? Like they send the compost in to get tested. There's routinely microplastic in it because of the inefficiencies of large scale composting. So a bill like this allows us to take food waste and other compost from businesses and residences, take it to farmers and produce the compost, and they can literally use it for free. So they don't have to pay it for it. And yep, that's basically it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Recycle Hawaii in support.
Thank you, representatives. Christopher Dean, I'm the president of Recycle Hawaii, and we support 1992. But I would like to also, I've submitted written testimony, but I would also like to add my personal observations living in Hawaii and North Kohala. For decades, I've watched a lot of green waste, yard waste going into the transfer station. And I know, I can't tell how many millions of tons of green waste are in our landfill because of this, but they don't drive to Kona to participate in the composting operations there. It's just too far, it's 50 miles. And they also don't take advantage of using that compost waste. North Kohala is an agricultural community, and they need a little localized composting operation that can accept food scraps, maintain a closer vigilance over, the integrity of that matter in the food, and to make it easier for them to access it and to dispose of their green waste. And we can divert tons of waste going into our landfills. I also think it will save the county a tremendous amount of money in trucking costs and maintenance costs and so forth, back and forth, as well as lowering our carbon footprint. Thank you very much for your time and efforts.
Thank you very much. That is all the registered testifiers we have. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none. One more person. Okay. Farm Bureau? Hey, Brian. Oh, Farm Bureau. Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My apologies. I thought we submitted testimony in time. If you don't have our written testimony, I'll just summarize. We provided comments. We absolutely support composting. Many bills in past sessions, including many this session that we've already testified in support of reimbursement programs to understand the value of composting, of diverting food products and producing the compost that our farmers and ranchers can use. However, we do defer to the expertise of the Department of Health if we're going to expand agriculture uses on ag land to allow for composting, that there's an appropriate level of oversight necessary for composting facilities. Currently, right now, it's a certified processors and dealers, retailers that do business in the state of Hawaii that are eligible, that farmers are eligible with the reimbursement program that was set up a few years ago. So again, we're completely supportive of composting. Most of our testimony, if not all, for the composting bills are in support. We're not opposed to this. We just want to make sure there is the proper oversight because there are potential hazards and threats to public health, to agriculture with composting. So thank you for this opportunity to testify. We do apologize if our testimony didn't get in, and we will submit our written testimony.
Oh, thank you very much, Brian. We do have your testimony. Sorry, I overlooked your marked in as testifying. Okay. That's all the people that we have registered for to testify. Is there anybody else? Seeing none, we have about 24 individuals and companies with testifying with comments or support. Members, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Sure, Representative Martin.
I have a question for the Department of Health. I just wanted to see if you folks could maybe allay some of Brian Miyamoto's concerns that the composting would be required to be done in a safe manner, just as current composting operations are required to do that.
So under the Department of Health regulations on solid waste specifically, we do require a permit by all of our solid waste management facilities. Composters who act as a solid waste management facility is required to meet certain conditions as far as demonstrating that they are composting in a manner that's protective of human health and the environment, whether it's the design of the operations itself, the testing of the finished product, that sort of thing. It would be regardless of where the location of the facilities are. There are some exemptions in the regulations that allow for composting by agricultural activities, provided that the composting material is utilized on their own controlled agricultural lands. But being that this measure is related to land use issues, we did not comment on that portion of the bill. But we do appreciate your recognition of our need for additional resources, and that portion of the bill we do support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else anybody else has a question? Seeing none, I have a question for Department of Health. Do we need to add anything else in this bill? Because there's nothing that states for regulation, or you don't have any testimony stating regulation for the industry.
We do have our own statutes. So this bill is not specific to that. So at this point, we don't believe we need additional changes to our own statute, solid waste regulations, or that in that regard. We are here to provide our support specific to the additional position that is being proposed for our branch. And that was the intent of our testimony.
Okay, no, thank you very much. That's very good. Anybody else has any questions? Seeing none, we are moving on. Next up is HB 2084 relating to IAL. First up, we have Department of Agriculture in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Yes, the department stands on its written testimony in support of the measure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Morisata, right? Okay, next we have Office of Planning. Mary Alice Evans in support.
Yes, good morning, Chair Hashem, Rodney Funakoshi for Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We stand our testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have DBED.
Okay, yeah, I'm also sorry, testifying for DBED, Rodney Funakoshi. So DBED also stands on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Okay, good. Next, we have Life of the Land, Henry Curtis with comments. Is he on? No. Next, we have 1,000 Friends in opposition. Next, we have an individual, the name of Kimane Kane, an individual in opposition. Is he on? No. Next, we have Farm Bureau in support.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We'll stand on a written testimony with support. Just a few comments. Think a lot of this is the focus. The focus of this is because of the IL mapping in the city and county of Honolulu, and many of our small farmers' fears based on some interpretation of the current incentive for IL as it regards to farm worker housing. So we do support this measure. We believe that it will clarify the legislative intent of Act 233 that set up the incentives for IL. Again, we want to continue to have more land dedicated in IL, preserve our most productive lands, but we also want to make sure that our small farmers aren't impacted. And we believe that this measure does address the intent for that particular incentive for IL lands. So thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Okay, that is all the people we have registered to testify. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we're moving on. Next up is HB 1993 relating to agriculture leases. First up, we have Department of Agriculture in opposition.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony, and Morris Atta, Deputy, is available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Department of Ag. Wait, we have three. 1, 2, 3. Next, we have the Attorney General, Brian Yee, with comments.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Allison Cato, Deputy Attorney General. We provided written comments based on one particular added subsection that requires a lessee who suffers a mental or physical disability or the loss of a spouse to submit certain documentation to the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. This requirement appears to be based solely on the occurrence of the disability or loss suffered, regardless of any action being sought by the lessee or any impact to the lease. As this requirement raises potential discrimination concerns, the department recommends amending this bill to limit it to circumstances initiated by the lessee. Specific language for this is provided in our written testimony. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Sitar Dean Comerford in support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Nick Comerford, representing University of Hawaii and CTAR. We provide testimony and we stand in our testimony in support of the general intent. We do express some concerns over terminology and the interpretation of the terminology. Plus, this bill has a direct effect on HDOA and the potential budget, so we defer to HDOA in those respects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Brian Miyamoto, Farm Bureau, with comments.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto, the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We provided comments with some concerns. We do agree with the department having authority to review current leases to ensure lease requirements are being met. And we certainly agree with the timely notification to the department in case of a lessee's death or inability to continue the agriculture uses with these leases. However, we can't support other proposed amendments, such as the reduction in the number of years allowed for extensions, the compensation upon transfers, and the requirement for use of current productivity standards. We absolutely want to support new farmers farming our land. We want to grow our industry, but we do need to support our current farmers also. And some of the provisions in this measure we do have concerns with. So we do offer comments, but we are concerned with the provisions within this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we receive testimony from the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council, an individual by the name of Reba O'Day, North Shore EVP and Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, all in support. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Nope, seeing none. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we are moving on. Next up, we have HB 2306, relating to invasive species. First up, we have Department of Agriculture with comments.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The department stands on its written testimony. We appreciate the intent of the measure and we defer to the Office of the Attorney General. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Next, we have DLNR in support.
Yeah, hi, David Smith, Administrator, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. We'll defer to DOA, but generally we support the measure. We'd like to see additional inspections and capacity generated at DOA. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Department of Transportation in opposition, Ross Higashi. Ross, you there? Next, we have Hawaii Tax Foundation of Hawaii, Tom Yamachika, with comments.
Yes, good morning. This is Jade McMillan on behalf of Tom Yamachika for the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We have offered comments on the measure. You may contact our office if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Hawaii Farm Bureau with comments.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. First of all, just want to acknowledge that this is DLNR's Hawaii Invasive Species Awareness Month, so these measures are very timely. We did provide comments. We absolutely support any efforts to control invasive species. I mean, our farmers and ranchers are constantly dealing with many of these issues and impacting their production, impacting their operations. Our comments is that air freight is currently already included as part of the inspection, quarantine, and eradication of invasive species fee. So we're not sure if there's a need to establish. I do understand that it has other responsibilities, which we do like. So those are just our comments. We don't know if it's just expanding the current fee instead of creating a brand new fee and fund, if that's necessary, but we do defer to the legislature on that. But again, we are very supportive of any effort to address our invasive species problems that we have here in Hawaii.
Okay, thank you very much. That is all the people that we have registered to testify. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none, we had 3 other individuals, 2 individuals in support and 1 in opposition. I have one quick question for Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Yes.
Okay, so this bill was specifically, I put this bill in specifically because of your testimony in the past regarding the inspection and inspection fees and the lawsuit that happened. Because we cannot, the inspection fees collected at the airport cannot go out, cannot be used for other means. So if we created a separate special fund that only funds collections at the airport, is what you guys testified. So does this bill actually do the job?
I will have to get more details on the specifics from Tom. Would you mind if we get back to you with those answers?
Sure. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you very much.
That's it. Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Seeing none, we're moving on. Next up, we have HB 2319 relating to service animals. First up, we have Department of Agriculture with comments and support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Yes, we stand on a written testimony offering comments and available for questions.
Okay. Next up, we have Craig Hirai, Dean Comerford, UHC-TAR.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. University of Hawaii CTAR stands on its written testimony and is available for questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have Hawaii Farm Bureau in support.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Ooh, did I skip one? Yeah,
I think.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped on to the next bill. So actually, let's go back to this. We have Isaac Maeda, Department of Agriculture. Are you on? In
Yes,
support?
I am, Chair.
Okay, you stand on your testimony and support. Okay, never mind. So, yes, sorry, I jumped onto the wrong, I'm reading off of the wrong list. So we're going back to HB 2319. Next up, we have American Kennel Club in support. That is all the people that we have registered to testify for 2319. And I want to thank my vice chair for correcting me. Is there anybody that has any questions?
I do, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Representative Tokioka, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Maeda, thank you so much. I looked at your testimony, but you, I don't know if your testimony just mirrors Phyllis's testimony.
Right.
But I do want to acknowledge all of the hard work that you and your department, I don't know how big your department is, that checks on service animals and dogs and cats and animals coming into the state. But you guys do an excellent job with the volume that come into the state. So as I'm reading the testimony that Phyllis sent in, it says that the Department of Ag allows private veterinarians to apply for and receive approval from DOA to conduct inspections for dogs and cats arriving at Maui, Kona, and Lehui. I'm assuming Hilo's in there too.
Currently, we don't, there are no private veterinarians willing to do inspection at Hilo.
Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, can you explain the process so that everybody knows? Because it's kind of a little bit confusing, and I know we need to stop animals from coming in with rabies, but can you just explain the process? So if somebody wants to come from the mainland with a dog, let's just use a dog in this example, explain the process and the time periods that this owner has to get the dog inspected.
Okay, there's two major, I guess, criteria that we're looking at for an animal, a dog being imported into the state. One is, does it qualify for the shortened direct release at the airport with vaccinations and, you know, rabies, antibody serology, microchip identification, inspection on arrival, that kind of thing. And then there's the location of the, you know, intended entry. The entry at Honolulu International Airport is not as problematic because that is, Oahu is the only place that the program has staff at. So at Honolulu International Airport, there's a facility that's dedicated to receive not only dogs and cats, but all animals, smaller animals or smaller livestock or what have you that fit into the facility and can get inspected there. Dogs that want to go to an outer island, currently, as we discussed, only Kona, Lehui, and Kahului presently. In addition to having to meet the requirements to come in as a, you know, qualify for release with the vaccinations and what have you, they also have to contact one of these private veterinarians that are on the list to conduct the inspection on that island. The private veterinary facilities will charge their own fees to the individuals. And once they have an arrangement with the owner, these private facilities will send a confirmation to the quarantine station on Oahu. And so the quarantine station will then look at the animal, does it qualify for an airport release? And then also they got the confirmation for the inspection on a neighbor island, they'll issue a permit, a neighbor island inspection permit. The neighbor island inspection permit is what airlines need to see to fly an animal direct to Kahului, Lehui, or Kona. Without that, they have to bring it to Honolulu. Time-wise, because of the difference in getting permits out and what have you, the time period within our admin rules are 30 days for a neighbor island inspection permit ahead of time, or 10 days for a Honolulu arrival. Honolulu arrival, a little bit different though, because we have staff there, every day. If a person comes in without having the 10 days pre-arrival submission of all their documents and what have you, depending upon how much time is available in inspection time before they close, the staff can actually look at it and review it. You don't have that luxury on the neighbor island because they have to get the permit out for the airline. So those are the two differences between neighbor island versus Honolulu arrival. So there's no permits that are issued for Honolulu.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So, so some people may not know this, but, prior to before, they would come in and they would have to sit at the quarantine station in Honolulu, right? Whether you were neighbor island or whatever, that dog would have to stay at the quarantine station. And I don't know, I believe it was changed, what, 8-10 years ago?
Yeah, back in the early 2000s. Actually, it started probably in late 90s. They would had the 30-day program where you would come in and you would have to still be quarantined for 30 days. You'd have required additional testing and what have you. All of that's been kind of simplified as more literature came out. Studies have been done to document that we're able to do this as an airport release, without increasing the risk for entry of rabies and other diseases. The inspections that we do are important, not just for, it's not just rabies that we're looking for, but there are several types of exotic ticks. Hawaii only has the brown dog tick that's endemic in Hawaii now. Well, not endemic, but it's here. And there are other ticks that transmit infectious diseases such as Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Lyme disease, and all these other kinds of things that we don't have in Hawaii. And there's also concern with a newer type of tick that several years ago started being found on the East Coast, which is the longhorn tick, Asian longhorn tick. And this tick is really bad. It not only has the ability to transmit diseases to animals and people, but it can also actually kill animals just from the multiplications that these ticks do on the animals, and even wildlife. They've killed it just by the blood that's drained from the animal. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to prevent from coming into Hawaii.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Marietta. Thank you, Chair, for the questions. You guys do a great job over there. Thank you, Mr. Marietta.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, are there any other questions? Seeing none, I have a question. Department of Agriculture, Phyllis, are you on, Director?
Yes, Chair.
So in your testimony, you state that you don't charge a fee for any of your other airports.
We do not
What is
charge.
Go ahead.
We do not charge fees for service animals statewide.
Okay, so what is the need for this? What is this bill referring to? Why are they saying that there is a fee?
We believe that what the concern of this bill is addressing is what Dr. Maeda previously said, that we don't have staff on the neighbor islands. So, a private veterinarian needs to be procured or contracted with by the pet owner. And so the service animal owner is billed for the services of the private veterinarian because we have no neighbor island staff.
Okay. Are they billed on Oahu?
No, because as Dr. Maeda stated, that we have a facility at the airport and we have staff 7 days a week there.
Okay. Thank you very much. No questions. Okay.
Chair, let me just add to that. I think the other part of it would be that the neighbor island, the pets going to the neighbor island would go through Honolulu, and that would be a big bog down of the Honolulu office and a lot more expensive to the animal owner as well. Because they would have to fly to Honolulu with them and the animal and then fly them back to the neighbor island that they're going to. And that would be very expensive.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're gonna move on. Next up is HB 2305 relating to the University of Hawaii. First up, we have Department of Agriculture and Support.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony.
Okay. Next, we have Dean Comerford. Sorry for the second time.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize for responding earlier. I just figured I had a senior moment and didn't see it going to the next bill. But
No, I went on. I was overzealous and I started running into the next bill. So go ahead.
Well, we stand in our testimony in support. We note the ongoing work both with HDOA and with CTAR and are looking forward to this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Brian. You can testify again.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I also had that senior moment, that same senior moment. We do stand on our written testimony and support, and thank you very much, Chair, for hearing this critically important bill for many of our nursery farmers, especially on the windward side of Oahu.
Okay, next, we have several other individuals that testified in support. There's individuals and associations. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? That's all the registered members we have. I'm seeing none. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we are moving on to the bill that everybody's been waiting for. Next up, we have HB 1987. Before we start, I want to note that we got over 1,000 testimony on this bill, and your testimony will be continued to be processed. Will continue to be processed even after this hearing has adjourned, and we just need to get time to work through the process. If you submitted testimony prior to 10 o'clock today, before the hearing started, your testimony will be up online and recorded. There is no official time limit, but if you continue to ramble on and take a lot of time, I will ask you to sum up your testimony. And with that said, we are moving on to HB 1987. First up, we have DLNR with comments.
Yeah, hi, David Smith, Administrator with the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. We just like to note that free-ranging feral cats are one of our greatest conservation challenges in Hawaii, and we certainly spend a lot of time dealing with them and the impacts that they have on native species. We have offered written comments and with some suggestions, and we'll stand on those and are available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Aloha Animal Advocates in opposition.
Aloha, Vice Chair, Chair, and committee members. From Aloha Animal Advocates, there are many case studies of eradications of specific species with unintended consequences causing disastrous results and collateral damage. We should learn from these. Some of them are from Macquarie Island, New Zealand, and Australia. Hawaii currently is the extinction capital of the world, and it's caused by three major factors. The major killer of native birds is the disease-carrying mosquito. As the birds move to higher elevations, the mosquito adapts and follows. So Maui's considering introducing a bacteria that will make the male mosquito sterile, thereby crashing the population advancement of mosquitoes. And that's a good thing. Spraying poison will affect other species and the watershed, so that's not good. Number two factor, loss of habitat, pollution, and development by humans is the second major cause of extinction, including the influx of tourists and development for tourism. The third major factor of extinction are predators, and that includes rats, mongoose attacking ground nesting birds, and of course, the feral cats. We should not contribute to the high rate of extinction to the species in Hawaii by taking action to spread poison, to do different kinds of methods to eradicate one species without a lot of research. If we really want to save the native species and the environment, we need to focus on the root causes of the extinctions and not just target one species, the felines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Best Friends Animal Society in opposition. Melissa? are you on?
Aloha, my name is Melissa Pavlicek. I'm here today on behalf of the Best Friends Animal Society, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are strongly opposed to this measure. It refers to Australia's development of humane and effective methods to cull invasive feral cat populations. There's no reason to think that these measures are humane. Researchers in Australia observed that following the consumption of poison bait, cats exhibited symptoms for more than 7 hours, or from the first time of intoxication to collapse and eventually death. Some experienced 7 symptoms for more than 22 hours. It's difficult to see how this might be characterized as humane. Our testimony runs to over 7 pages, and I am typically a 1-page or less testifier. This bill really means a lot to many people, as you've seen from the testimony. Please do not advance it.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Pono Advocacy and Opposition. Inga, are you on?
Yes, aloha, Chair, committee members. Thank you so much. Inga Gibson, Pono Advocacy. I just want to start by saying I think we all agree that free roaming cats are an issue and have been across the state for many years. I was a part of one of the first cat wildlife collaborations about a decade ago that hoped to kind of prioritize the areas that could be focused. And unfortunately, what we ran into is a number of folks that believe a cat anywhere is a threat to wildlife everywhere. And that is absolutely not the case. We really appreciate the written testimony by DLNR. I think they make some really great points that there are absolutely policy positions and opportunities that need to take place. I think we all agree that a cat count and an objective science-based cat count is necessary, but the other provisions in the bill, as referenced with setting forward percentage reduction goals and putting forward the use of various ineffective and inhumane poisonous baits is really just not the way to go. I did want to clarify a couple things to the committee, if I may, should they not be aware. County, state, and federal agencies already have the legal authority and actively remove cats in areas where they pose the greatest risk to wildlife. So they already have that existing authority. And for the most part, cats in these isolated areas where they pose a threat to wildlife, there is not the objection to their removal if necessary. I also wanted to state something that a lot of folks probably don't know, including our wildlife folks, is that humane societies across the state already euthanize tens of thousands of cats every year. We know that euthanasia alone is not going to address this issue. More than anything, this is a human issue, and unfortunately, the cats are scapegoated for a lot of these issues. So it's really a human dimension, a human issue that needs to be addressed. So encourage the committee to look at the testimony of DLNR, their suggestions. If there's a way to support the existing organizations that are engaged in efforts to reduce the feral cat population and free roaming cats. There's a bill, for example, that supports spay-neuter efforts. That is where we would direct the efforts. And if there is any further discussion, I think it's really important to bring all the stakeholders together. So we urge your deferral of this bill, acknowledge that it's an issue, but this is really not the way to go about it. So mahalo for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Neighborhood Cats in opposition.
Mahalo. My name is Brian Cordes. I'm the National Programs Director for Neighborhood Cats. We're a nonprofit that specializes in assisting communities in managing their free roaming cat populations. We've worked in communities across the United States and actually are active in Australia right now. I've discussed in my written testimony what I believe are the major shortcomings with HB 1987. They include the shutting out of important stakeholders, the ignoring local government policies. The preamble misrepresents the success of the feral cat eradication efforts in Australia. There's a failure to define what a feral cat even is. And there's a lack of understanding that there is no one size fits all solution to, as I think everyone would acknowledge, is a serious issue. The goal for both the animal welfare community and for the conservation community is the same. Maybe there are different reasons, but both interest groups want there to be a reduction of cats on the landscape. Where we disagree is on the best way to go about that. So the conservation community, at least as represented by this bill, is favoring lethal approaches, whereas the animal welfare community is much more geared towards sterilization efforts, funding for spay-neuter, educating people on how to be responsible managers and owners of cats. So what is needed, basically you cannot solve this problem and reduce the number of cats and protect the native species without all the stakeholders having input into this. You need the animal welfare community's expertise and our knowledge. You need to understand not only cats, but you need to understand people's relationships to them and how they work. So,
Brian, can you sum up your testimony, please?
Yes, I will. So what I would suggest for the committee respectfully is, instead of inflaming this situation and escalating this conflict, take a leadership role in trying to resolve it. Form a working group that has equal numbers of conservation and animal welfare representatives. Fund, a very important fund, a professional facilitator to try to break through this debate, and ask the members to work in good faith to come up with a collaborative solution, because that's the only way this is going to be resolved. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Best Friends Animal Society in opposition. Next, we have Hawaii Humane Society in opposition.
Aloha, Chair Hashem, Vice Chair Peruso, committee members, Stephanie Kendrick with the Hawaiian Humane Society. You have our written testimony in strong opposition of this bill, and I'll keep my remarks short. The Hawaiian Humane Society advocates for the humane treatment of all animals, domestic and wild. But as other presenters have already pointed out, free-roaming cats represent a diverse population and a complex management challenge. We agree with the goal of reducing this population. In fact, we devote enormous resources into doing just that without any help from the state. Sadly, this measure can only serve to alienate the very entities that are working to address this issue in a targeted large-scale fashion. And I urge the committee to reject this divisive approach. Hawaiian Humane supports an evidence-based approach. We are conducting right now the first comprehensive study of the free-roaming cat population on Oahu. And we're doing that with the help of volunteers who manage cat populations, know where they are and understand them, something that would be impossible with the approach taken by this bill. We believe there's enormous potential for animal welfare and conservation interests to collaborate on intelligently and humanely reducing the number of free-roaming cats. Such collaboration may in fact be the only hope for tackling this issue. But the eradication strategy outlined in this bill is not only inhumane and unrealistic, it makes that kind of collaboration completely impossible. The legislature has two excellent opportunities to help reduce cat-wildlife conflicts this session. DLNR has several CIP requests for predator-proof fencing. We support those requests and we hope you will as well. HB 1610 creates spay-neuter grant opportunities funded by a state income tax checkoff. We strongly support that measure and we hope you will as well. But please reject HB 1987. It will not move this issue forward. In fact, it's counterproductive and could destroy current opportunities to collaborate to make progress. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Oahu Cat Sanctuary in opposition.
Hi, my name is Tom Hollowalk, and I am a board member of Popoki Place, the Oahu Cat Sanctuary, which is a Hawaii nonprofit. We've been working for about 3 years to research what it would take to create a fenced cat sanctuary on the island of Oahu. Now, there is already a perfect case study on the island of Lanai. If you're not familiar with it, there is the Lanai Cat Sanctuary, which has successfully been in business for 10 years. And they started in a small space, and Larry Ellison gave them a 5-acre parcel in which they have predator-proof fence surrounding it, and they have areas for admissions of sick cats and all cats. They have veterinarians who take care of them, they neuter them, and they have a way of fostering cats that can be fostered, and for the rest of them, they keep them there and feed them for the rest of their natural lives. Now, we've been investigating properties here on Oahu where we can do this. One of our problems, of course, is land values. So I would think that the DLNR would be able to put together a working committee to identify any properties which would be valuable to create cat sanctuaries. These could be preserved properties. They could be distressed agriculture properties that have been used but can't be used anymore. If we could create something based on the model that was already created in Lanai, we would be able to take thousands of cats off of the streets and off of the beaches. I know they've been working with NOAA and the Fish and Wildlife Service. So rather than reinvent the wheel, there's already a plan in place. And I think that we can do this on Oahu. The Hawaiian Humane Society has a lot to do right now, but I know that they support creating separate cat sanctuaries just because of the volume and because they're concentrating on creating a hippocampus right now. So Oahu Cat Sanctuary is looking for the support of the DLNR and of the Agriculture Committee. And I thank the chair, and I thank the vice chair and the members of this committee for hearing my testimony. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have American Bird Conservancy in support.
Thank you, Chair Hashem and members of the committee. My name is Grant Sizemore, and I'm the Director of Invasive Species Programs for American Bird Conservancy, which is dedicated to the conservation of native birds and their habitats throughout the Americas. Feral cats are among the world's most harmful invasive predators. They have contributed to the extinction of 2 Hawaiian species already and remain a major driver in the decline of numerous remaining species. The presence of these cats on the landscape also contributes to widespread environmental contamination from the cat-transmitted parasite Toxoplasma gondii, which causes toxoplasmosis. Not only can this parasite infect all birds and mammals, including people, it is the leading disease threat to endangered Hawaiian monk seals and a threat to other marine mammals. I also want to mention that this bill, beginning on page 5, line 9, includes reference to the Australian strategy, which you've heard mentioned by previous testifiers already. That strategy uses toxicants. There are no toxicants that are registered for feral cat control in the United States, and thus those references in the bill are not representative of current practices for feral cat control in this country. Our organization has already submitted written testimony for your consideration, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next up, we had Marge Nicholas in opposition. Okay. That's okay. I have about 100 pages of people in basically opposition. Instead of weeding through them all, I would just ask, is there any other people wishing to testify? And before we open it up, I ask you, please don't read your testimony. We have your testimony, just summarize it. And we have session at 12 o'clock. So if you go through everybody and everybody takes 5 minutes, that will be in what, 1,005 minutes. So anyways, moving on. Is there anybody else wishing to testify?
Yes, I'd like to testify.
Okay, please state your name and your position if you support or oppose, and then testify.
I oppose.
Okay, and your name is?
My name is Ann, Aloha Committee on Agriculture Chair and members. My name is Ann Pitcaithley. I'm speaking as a private citizen, full-time resident of Maui for 29 years. I'm an ardent advocate for animal welfare. I'm testifying in strong opposition to House Bill 1987. Removing cats from an area by killing them is not only drastic and cruel, it's pointless. Animal control agencies and city governments have blindly perpetuated this futile approach for decades. But years of failed attempts and scientific research and evidence from animal control personnel prove that catch and kill does not permanently clear an area of cats. Science indicates that removing feral cat populations by kill only opens up the habitat to an influx of new cats, either from neighboring territories or born from survivors. Each time cats are removed, the population will rebound through a natural phenomenon known as the vacuum effect, drawing the community into a costly endless cycle of trapping and killing. It's stated that the Hawaii Invasive Species Committee does not endorse trap, neuter, return, manage, otherwise known as TNRM. This is in direct conflict to numerous scientific studies from multiple animal organizations worldwide that endorse it as the only proven method to reduce the feral cat population. And they are also tasked with protecting all species of animals, not just cats. Australia is the only place that endorses the cruel practice of poisoning cats. And the studies show that it can impact non-targeted animals. TNRM not only stops the breeding cycle, preventing reproduction, but allows the community cats to continue protecting their established territories. And the new accepted term is for these colonies is known as community cats, because the stray, lost, abandoned, or dumped cats, which occurs, are mixed in with the feral cats. Some of them can have been brought to the Humane Society and been adopted. The ASPCA and the Humane Society of the United States and many nonprofit organizations like Neighborhood Cats, Best Friends, Alley Cat, Animal League, Fix Nation, Greater Good, and I found out about a new one, Pono Advocacy, all support TNRM programs. And I wonder why the Maui Humane Society doesn't have, and other groups doesn't have a greater voice in this to solve this problem and provide personnel and funding. The Hawaii Invasive Species Committee and our legislators for the last 35 years have ruled out this program completely. And in my opinion, had the DLNR been involved with the Humane Society with this program earlier, we would not have this problem today. Just want to say, I'm echoing points that other people made, but I want to say that I do approve of a count. I think we really need a count, and I certainly acknowledge that this is a problem. And I do approve of predator fences. This proposed cruel method using either Eradicat or Curiosity poison bait, as was employed in Australia, causes a slow, agonizing, and excruciating death. And again, can impact non-target species, and we have different animal species here than in Australia. Addressing this, yes.
Can you please sum up your testimony?
Wrap it up. Okay. There's often reference about the number of monk seals that have died from toxoplasmosis, which has been attributed to cats. There's been 12 monk seals that have died since 2001 from toxoplasmosis. That's in 21 years, 0.57 seal deaths per year. And now 3 monk seals were killed by people in the past year or two. I want to point out that the last bird survey studying the number of bird kills done was not really scientific. They took one cat who was a notorious bird killer and then multiplied the number of cats they thought were in the area and said that's how many bird cat kills for the whole colony. I've cared for community cats, and I've observed them during the day and in early evenings. I've never witnessed them killing birds. You also wonder why they are not targeting.
And thank you very much. We need to move on. Next up, we have, is there Alicia Malatufiti? You're in the waiting room.
Maluafiti?
Yes, sorry, I mispronounced your name.
Aloha, and thanks for the opportunity to testify. Alicia Maluafiti, I'm the volunteer board president for Poi Dogs and Popoki, and we oppose this bill. I just want to go on record that Melissa Pavlicek has adopted Marco from us. And one of the things that we do is we make sure that everybody that adopts kittens and cats from us is that they keep them indoors. So I think all of us agree that one of the problems we face with these the cat population is not just that feral cats born outside. These are cats, friendly cats that are dumped, trapped by neighbors, people who are pissed off. So they continue to contribute to the growth of the colonies and the problems we face by just dumping their cats and allowing them to roam outside. So our policy is not to allow that. I have to tell you my real life example, trap, neuter, return. I've been managing a cat colony for 15 years, 55 cats. I am down to five or six cats now. Trap, neuter, return. Every time I see a kitten, I pull it. Every time I see a friendly cat roam into my colony, I pull it. Everybody is sterilized. The property manager at this retail establishment, it's a strip mall in Neva Beach, they don't want me pulling any more cats. All the restaurants love the few that are there because they help with rodent control. So, I mean, this trap, neuter, return works. And I'm not sure DLNR, they're not used to actually releasing live animals. Their goal is to kill them, kill one species to save another. I think we're past killing animals to save a different species. I agree, let's work together and try to find a solution. I think we have a lot on board. This bill is far from being any kind of solution. So I'm hoping that you will defer it today, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Next up, we have Ariana. Did I pronounce it right? Wishing to testify.
Was that Ariana Feinberg?
Yes.
Okay,
That's you.
just making sure.
You're up.
Yeah, hi. Hi, my name is Ariana Feinberg. I'm a born and raised Maui resident. I'm here to testify in support of this bill. Thank you guys so much for even hearing this controversial bill. I also read through the testimony and it definitely seems like I'm in the minority as a supporter. And most of the other support testimony was from conservation groups. I'm here to testify as a mom. I have a 2-year-old. I'm also pregnant and just a community member that likes to use beach parks. There are no one on your committee is from Maui, but I don't know how it is on your islands, but there are in a lot of our beach parks, there are so many feral cats and you can see so many people feeding them. These cats, they're not healthy. You know, they look super beat up. They look skinny and diseased and there's poop everywhere. I think twice before going to certain parks on Maui because I've seen, you know, cat poop around and my toddler, he sucks his thumb and it's like, if I have to be on him every second to sterilize his hands in between playing in the sands, you know, it's not fun for me. So anyways, thank you guys so much for bringing this up and considering this. The feral cat population needs to be controlled. Also, people are bringing up a lot about like forest birds and the loss of habitat and the mosquitoes and everything. But what they're not talking about is the seabirds that live at lower lying areas, and they are the main ones being predated in the, I'm talking about Kanaha Beach Park and down in Kihei in wetland areas where these birds are being killed by the cats. And these birds, it's not just one species over the other. These birds offer the ecosystem service of taking nutrients from the ocean by eating the fish, and then they poop out fertilizer, and that supports native plants that then either support trees that are a watershed and reduce erosion. So they offer us like a real economic benefit. And these feral cats, they're pests, and it's scary they're spreading disease. So anyways, thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Carol Kobia.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. I stand behind my written testimony, along with just adding a few extra points. The vacuum effect that was already mentioned by Anne is a true fact sheet and research, and it's why catch and kill does not work. And I don't know if you have a copy of that, but I'd be happy to send you over one so you can actually see all the research that is done on that. And these are actual facts. Also, of course, I strongly stand against this HB 1987. Also, I would like to point out that the major cause for the birds and stuff is basically the wind turbines. And I'm not against those, but they are the major cause of what is causing there's several things that are on the web. There's several articles. It's been on KITV News, YouTube's that you can research. And that is the major cause of birds and our Hawaiian species being they're deadly to birds and flying animals. Anyway, on all of that, I would just like to ask you to please reject this bill, vote against it. And I am strongly in opposition at it. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Carol. Next, we have Rachel Love. Is she on?
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, sorry.
Please state your name and your position. And then.
Oh, hi. Okay. My name is Rachel Love. I am opposed. And there's multiple reasons. I do stand behind my written testimony, which it's hard to balance the best points for the problems that are being most discussed, as well as those that are sympathetic to, cats, and not just, you don't want to be seen as a bleeding heart that just doesn't want any to get, euthanized. But at the same time, I think that some that are, it's not about birds versus cats. It's being made to seem that way. I think that there are more people that are personally frustrated with the personal frustrations they have with their neighborhoods, with their homes, their subdivisions, cat colonies that are unchecked, that do need to have governance, and TNR needs to be a massive undertaking that needs funding that's not just being funded privately. But I think that some people that are in defense of more of the birds are making points about how they're the pest species. They're not the biggest pest species here. What's going to happen if you eradicate, are you going to have a decrease in numbers of cats if you start doing catch and kill? Yes, but it's only going to be right off. It's not sustainable for the long term. It actually would cost the government more to do so, but you're not going to have as many people stand up, be willing to do it. Maybe hunters, maybe, but you're not going to find a lot of people that are willing to constantly kill for their day-to-day work. You're going to have to pay them a higher rate to do so. You're going to have to pay a decent penny for the cost of whatever method you're using to euthanize. Plus, there's a big focus on toxoplasmosis. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, there have only been 11 confirmed toxoplasmosis seal deaths in the last 2 decades. There have been a lot of seal deaths, but if you actually look into the autopsies, there's multiple that are undetermined, that the condition of the body was too far gone, many that were shot by humans or crushed or injured with traumatic injuries from other seals. Most of the threat to the seals is actually marine debris, which a lot of the autopsies do state that. And you can find this stuff
Rachel,
from the
can you please sum up your testimony, please?
Oh, sure. So essentially, you're going to end up having a boom in the rat and mongoose populations for the reduction of cats. Should they be reduced? Should they be governed? Yes. We need TNR. We need it. We need funding for it where it's not on the private citizens.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we'll continue on. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none, thank you very much. Members, are there any questions? Oh, there's one person. Can you put them in?
Hello, I've been disabled and I've been here since my video has been disabled by you folks. So I'm sorry, it's Ginny Tew. I've been on since 10 o'clock. Canceled other meetings because this is so important. So if I can testify, I don't know if you can able me again. So I am on video. I did.
We have your written testimony and you can continue on. Please
Okay,
wrap up
thank
your
you.
testimony.
Thank you. Yes, very quickly. Thank you very much. I'm in strong opposition because, you know, I agree with everybody, everything that's been said about that it's not, it doesn't work really in the long run. It's a quick fix. And, you know, I'm just listening to me, we can't poison or we can't inflict such suffering on these animals because it's inhumane. And I agree, we do have to do something. I think most of us agree with that, but it cannot be so inhumane. You know, it's a very painful way to die from poison or traps or anything like that. I mean, we as a society are against even torturing known criminals and known terrorists. We are against that. So how can we do this to innocent, helpless animals? I hear Miss Feinberg, and when she was talking, I thought she was talking about the homeless, because that is what, you know, it's the same thing. We don't want to go to parks. We don't want to take our children because it's not safe. It's not hygienic. But the homeless do that. But we don't think of ways to, eliminate them in an inhumane way. So, you know, we just have to find humane solutions, work together. I agree with that totally. And we just cannot do things like this as a society that supposedly we're about aloha. But in any society, humane society, we have to find humane solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ginny. Next, we have, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Gigi Chung. Oh, somebody that knows Chinese can.
Yeah, I speak Mandarin. So, but
please
yeah.
state your name and your position and sum up your testimony, please.
Okay. So good morning, Chair and the committee. I'd like to address the legislature. I have a small animal rescue in Kalihi, and I support the legislative efforts to conduct studies, humane and safe studies about feral cats, and their legislative efforts to appropriate funds for feral cat management. But I'd like to oppose the bill because of the language used in the purpose section describing the unfavorable qualities of feral cats. Many feral cats are adoptable. Oahu animal shelters and rescues adopt feral cats to people. I personally have adopted 3 feral cats, and one of them, this one, is certified by a professional psychologist to be an emotional support animal. This feral kitten became an ESA and is approved medically to provide a support service. The kitten provides comfort, happiness, joy, and companionship. At the federal level, there are federal statutes that recognize the value of ESAs. The US Department of Justice writes that emotional support animals provide comfort just by being with a person. And ESAs have special protections under the American with Disabilities Act of 1990, the ADA.
I'm sorry, can you sum up your testimony, please? We have other people wishing to testify and we got to go to session.
Okay, I will. Thanks, Chair. I also work as a volunteer with City Council regarding our community, and I have spoken to them about the feral cat crisis in our neighborhood a little bit. I've connected in the Kaliki Palama neighborhood ward with Senator Kim, Councilmember Radiant, Representative Sunny, Senator Carl Rose, Representative Daniel Halt. So for me, I am conflicted, but I do oppose because of the language, and I'd advise if it's possible for the legislature to consider working with the city, because in 2019, the city funded the Humane Society, where they try to help the feral cat crisis. And the
Okay,
HHS.
thank you very much. We need to move
Okay.
on. Thank you. Next up, is there anybody else wishing to testify?
This is Sarah Haynes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Please
Hi.
keep it short because we
Yes,
have to be on.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm going to be great at that. Hi, I just want to say I'm in strong opposition. I do manage 3 different colony areas, including Kanaha Beach that was mentioned earlier. I'm one of 3 managers in that area. One thing I want to bring up, I'm in support of Brian's testimony and a number of the other people, so I'll let that speak for itself. But one thing that hasn't been brought up that I'd like to bring up are some solutions and also some additional problems. One of them is I have a scanner. I scan every cat I see out there. About 50% of the cats that I scan that are not already tipped are dumped pets. We need to change the laws about dumping pets. I'm the only person who has gone to court with video proof of somebody dumping their own cat at the beach and got them charged. That is not happening at all on this island. I've been here 4 years. I'm the only person that has gone to court for this. There is a real problem with dumped pets, and I ask you to please look at that as a huge piece of what's going on here. Many of them not fixed. Additionally,
Thank you, Sarah. We'll look into that. Can you wrap it up, please?
I'll
Yes.
wrap up. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify? Okay, that's it. We are going to recess for decision making. Everybody, we're back for decision making. First up, we have HB 2466 relating to Taro. What I'm going to do is try to change the conversation a little bit, and I'm just going to make a non-processed Taro exempt from GET and move it on to continue the conversation and defect data. Seeing no questions, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends to pass 2466 with amendments. Seeing that Representative Peruso, Representative Matsuyoshi, and Representative Matsumoto are excused. Members, are there any reservations or no's? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, committee members. Next up, we have HB 1768. Chair's recommendation is to defect data to 7/1/2050 and put in the committee report for the next committee to look to expand the language regarding DLNR's concerns. And that's it. Basically defect data. Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing 1768 with amendments, seeing that Madiyoshi, Peruso, and Matsumoto are excused for the rest of the session. Are there any no's or reservations? Hearing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted. Okay. Rest of the hearing, my bad.
Okay, next up, we have HB 1922. Chair's recommendation is to pass this with a HD1, basically just defect dating it to 7/1/2050. Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing 1992 with amendments, Seeing 3 members excused, are there any no's?
I'm present.
Oh, Matsumoto is present.
Okay, seeing that Representative Matsumoto has joined us, thank you. Are there any no's or reservations? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, next up, we have HB 2084 relating to IAL. We're gonna put Henry Curtis's amendment to have public hearings. And I'm gonna add in each unit shall not exceed 800 square feet and defect dated to 7/1/2050. Okay, no questions or concerns? Thank you very much. Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing 2084 with amendments. Seeing that Representative Caruso and Machiyoshi are excused, are there any no's or reservations? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, next up, we have 1993. What we're gonna do is amend the bill to take out we're gonna address the AG's concern regarding, what is that? Regarding the disability section, we're gonna take that out and change that. So if a lessee is no longer able to implement the original plan, they may propose an amendment plan and go on to DOA and continue on with that. So any questions? See none? Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Take the vote.
Chair recommends passing 1993 with amendments. Seeing that Representative Caruso and Matsuyoshi are excused, are there any no's or reservations? Hearing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. HB 2306, we're going to defer. HB 2319 relating to service animals. What we're going to do is pass this with an HD1, add an appropriation section in the bill to cover the cost and defect date it. And it goes on to CPC and eventually FIN so they can figure out the cost associated with this. Thank you very much. Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing 2319 with amendments. Seeing Caruso and Matsuyoshi are excused, are there any no's or reservations? Hearing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, next up is HB 2305 relating to the University of Hawaii. We're going to pass this as is. Vice Chair for the vote, sorry.
That's okay. Chair recommends passing 2305 as is. Seeing Caruso and Matsuyoshi are excused, are there any no's or reservations? Hearing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, next up, lastly, we have HB 1987. We're going to defer this bill, so it's not, we're going to defer this bill. So everybody that's watching, the bill is not going to move forward and it's essentially dead. Thank you very much, members, for your support. Mahalo.